sure there's an official UN hashtag we'll share it with you a little bit later. Part of this program is also people that are sharing their stories for the first time. And it's also within that moment that we would request for you to not, the person is going to share anonymously. They do not want their name to be out there. They might not be sharing publicly. So I would like for us, for that part of the program, that sharing, that testimony is specifically for this room only. It does not go out. So consider this an NDA from our end, please. And so when that story is shared, it's specifically and strictly only for this room. Is that fine? Thank you very much. And so before we proceed, can I please now have on the podium Mr. Carlos Fernandez Garcia, the Strategic Planning and Resident Coordinator Office, and team leader as well. And then after that, we're going to have my amazing co-host, Willika Elias, to proceed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Franklin.
I'm going to give you this.
Okay, so I should just do like you, leave it here?
Or yes.
Okay, I hope that the sound's going fine. Good afternoon, how are you?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, thank you guys for being here this Friday afternoon, showing your commitment to end digital gender-based violence. So thank you. And welcome, despite the technical problem, to the UN House. For me, it's an honor just to have you here on behalf of all the UN team. And I would like just to commend all the effort that the gender theme group that gathered all the UN agencies working on gender within the UN team, for organizing this beautiful campaign, and I think impactful campaign this year. And also the chair, that is Ms. Erika Golson, who is here. So on behalf of our resident coordinator, Ms. Hopolan Fororo, thank you very much. And by the way, she's also the resident coordinator at interim, while Ms. Fororo is away on mission. I just like just to be brief and go with one data. I think one data also that was shared yesterday, during the activity yesterday. 85% of women are subject to digital gender-based violence. So that means globally, 85%, thank you, 85% of women, they face digital violence on the internet and harassment. So it means that when our partners, they face any given day, in the office, in the street, where probably also the likelihood of being subject to any kind of harassment by my male peers is quite high. When they arrive home, or they are in a moment of just to relax, and they go to the internet or to the social media, then there is a 85% of likelihood that they will continue being harassed. So this is very sad. So I think that today I hope that we can learn about this terrible problem, and we can listen to the voices of the victims, and then we can reflect on what we can do, because one click may change a life. It's just beyond being a victim or being a perpetrator. It's being a witness and doing nothing also. So I would say, when you are on the internet, all of us, we have a responsibility. And before we just forward or we just repost, we think about the consequences of that action. So having said that, I will just let, I think, the debate start, because I think this is what you were here for, not to listen to me. that to listen to the panelists. And I hope that we have a very productive afternoon. And thank you again for coming this Friday here at the UN House. And thank you to the panelists also for being with us. And enjoy.
Thank you so much, Master Carlos. I'm going to build on what has been said. And like my co-host Franklin said, so every year, the world commemorates the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, a global campaign that highlights the persistent violence against women and children across all spheres of their lives, socially, economically, and politically. Gender-based violence does not affect everybody equally. It disproportionately affects people that already are facing issues of systemic inequality. While the digital space offers immense opportunities to connect, to learn, as well as to engage, it's emerging as a place of risks. A place where issues of cyberbullying, a place where issues of non-consensual sharing of intimate images occur, online harassment, hate speech, as well as doxing disproportionately also continues to affect women and girls. This silences voice, infringe on human rights, as well as severely limits people's opportunities to limits people's rights and equal opportunities, limits people's rights to opportunities. Namibia is increasing as an internet use space, but it's also becoming a risky space where not all of us are safe. So today's dialogue will create a space for honest conversations, evidence, lived experiences, and collective problem solving. Aligned with the global theme for the 16 days of activism, this panel discussion will address the urgent need to understand, number one, as well as to prevent and respond to technology-affiliated gender-based violence issues in Namibia. The event is designed to spark critical thinking, which means that, Franklin said, it should be a dialogue that involves all of us, not only a dialogue that is focused or being heard by the panelists, but all of us collectively sharing our viewpoints, giving advice. So, this dialogue will help bridge the gap between technological advancement, human rights, as well as gender equality. And now, I'm going to call upon Franklin to lead us into the panel discussion. No, not Franklin. What Franklin had usually earlier mentioned is that we are going to have a survivor who's going to share their stories. And like he said, we, for privacy sake and to uphold confidentiality, we are not going to take any pictures, any videos. What is being said remains in this room. Okay? Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Get ready to capture the real Namibia. NBC is commissioning a 26 episodes, 26-minute reality series, budget of $281,500 Namibian dollars. From inspiring social experiments and community challenges to personal stories of courage, your series should reflect Namibia's national priority agenda. Submit your proposals by 15 January 2026.
Let's give a hand of applause. Thank you so much for being courageous. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. Your story and your experience reminds us why it is important to have these conversations, why making physical as well as digital spaces is not an option, but it's an essential. Next up, I'm gonna call Franklin to give us a performance, poem under the theme of the 16 Days of Activism.
The act of violence against a woman or girl, man or boy, that is committed, assisted, or aggravated by the use of information and communications technologies, 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 information and communications technologies,
personal and sentimental information like that. And so, can you imagine what that would have looked like if she had to stand in front of us like that as well? And so these stories exist. They're not very far from us either. And part of what I was called to do yesterday is talk on the issues. I've got more sisters than I have brothers, and I'm overly protective over them. And so whatever happens to any of these young girls equally happens to my sisters. And so part of that, I don't know if we recall a few years ago, I don't know if any of us in the room remember Jonita Mabula. Who was Jonita Mabula? She was she was our very first GBV victim. And only she was the B1 butcher victim. I must have been primary school when that happened. Lucia Shikongo was another name. Most of these names just became, They became a name that aided a story. So then I thought, what exactly is the problem? What is the issue of GBV? Because I've come to realize that sometimes, like the last story I read about this girl, she was just 17. And they blamed her rape on a skirt. Because the vast majority of these girls are walking around scared, and most of them live suppressed by relatives under a daunting threat, and she's just an orphan too. So what won't she do for bread? You see, we can't imagine the emotions that this Lena bottles. And we did not forget the injustice of Magdalena Stoffels. We are fighting for Jonita Mabula until anger topples, and we just want justice for Avihe as we enter law courts. And somebody said on X that maybe girls should dress better. And my counter argument is this: should her dress matter? What about these babies and toddlers when they get murdered? Yeah. And I guess we are very quick to comment when we are not the ones burdened. So yes, this is for Jane Fonda. It's for Oprah Winfrey at 9. This is for victim shaming because it's over the line. This is for Tyler Perry, it's for Shia LaBeouf, and all I have as an antidote is a godly hug and a shower of love, because her first name is Wu, and her second name is Men, but her surname is synonymous with death, it seems. Victimization faster than a neighborhood watch in a white neighborhood, and we are quick to tell it death states, but look at the birth it breeds. You see, at some point, in the days of Kakuruka de Munguda, we dwelt in the land of queens, and how loud should the blood of the innocent be before freedom hears? You see, my testosterone levels are toxically raised to erase and laid to waste the ideology of she was asking for it, with a skimpy skirt down her waist. And every time she leaves home, her eulogy is prepared, because who knows, whoever she interacts with might just be another basket case. And so we are burning bridges, but they are building them in the name of the deceased, they say, but that doesn't bring Magdalena back. And therefore, if safety in university is zero, then how much might a high school learner lack? So we should call it what it is. This is what love famine is. Some men failed, and the consequence of that is broken families, and there are greater things to be worried about than feeling intimidated or insulted in the face of feminists. You see, the protest was an indication of a revolution that is yet to be televised. We are speedily coming for your policies. It is not gender-based violence. It's a barbaric violation of human beings. Because my college friend Lisa was left breathless by the hands of a ruthless man, so he placed her memories on a wall to hang on. So do allow me this time to mourn Elisa, as I exercise my freedom of movement to an ancient portal, to a time of Queen Aminatu, Queen Nefertiti, Queen Cleopatra, the unsung songs of these immortal heroes. Tell Da Vinci, a mere fragment of these goddesses cannot be equated to a portrait of a Mona Lisa. For these are the oracles of Nahili Nashima. Hashinunda wa Kongali, Hashongo Kongali Ambangula, Hainakula Okantima Mohuwa, Hailapa Ehulime Kondoboloso, Varo Malengada Lebe. And so, it is my understanding that the less we speak about these conversations, or the less we speak about them in our homes, the more we perpetuate this idea. Because the human heart condition worsens and we just harden it. Because most of us pursue our own thing and then we throw God in it. And then we fail and ask him, how come you ain't guarding it? But that's presumptuous because he was never involved in it. Because I have seen my mother walking with a strength of 1,000 feet, and I am talking Mother Teresa fabric, because she got mouths to feed. We desire the role of pens, but do your trousers fit? So how can we blame these kids when their parents bounce and quit? You see, we put the value of human life in simple things. It's exhausting, trying to reason with simpletons. I'm on the grind. That usually means I'm chasing things. And I just figured that fathers are father figures in raising kids, but then again, I could be wrong. It could be my anger talking. But I talk with passion like Simon Hitchens defending Dawkins. And I bleed for love like 11 defeating Demogorgons. I hate to see potential lost as we gather coffins. Right, so as we get into this dialogue, into this panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a full-time poet and a part-time human being. And so that is my first office. I'm going to sit down now. It's going to get professional now. I'm going to grill the honorable members on the podium here with me. Ideally, what we wanted to do is have a twofold panel discussion. An expert side of the discussion, but you also want to have a human interest part of the discussion. The testimony was part of that human interest part, right? Because sometimes when we speak in this very, what one would call it, apocalyptic terms, the general person might not necessarily be able to understand. But however, policy reformation are one of those things that we need to consider if we are going to combat issues of gender-based violence. And so I am joined on the podium this afternoon from the academia, in other words, the expert field. Huh? And I'm joined by Ms. Givanius Nashilongo, technology policy researcher. You can already tell who that one is, on my far left. I'm also joined by Ms. Monica Ngoshi, legal officer, Directorate of Law Reform, Policy and Legislation. Reformation, that's what we're talking about. But I'm also joined by the people that are on the ground, people that report to these cases, and I'm joined by Senior Inspector Gabriel Pahula from NAMPOL, Cybercrime Investigation Unit, Organized Crime Division. And so I think these three people, they form a consortium of what we need to have as far as the legal conversation is concerned. I'd like to start with Ms. Nashilongo real quick. And I guess because we need the numbers, how would we know who we are dealing with unless we've got this research? So I'd like to take a look at what research tells us about the prevalence and impact of digital GBV in Namibia, one, and also are there unique cultural or social factors influencing how it manifests, and which age group, and I think that's very important, which age group is most affected by digital violence?
Thank you. Thank you, Franklin. Yes. Thank you, Franklin, for leading this conversation. But I also want to applaud the UNDP for constituting this very important discussion. It is overdue, but also very necessary within the times that we are working in now. I think as I get to answer your questions, please allow me to reflect on some other key case studies that I know that we've worked on related to online gender-based violence. 2021, 2022-3, we ran a campaign really highlighting on the prevalence of this very case. I would highlight one, a journalist, a female journalist, who had on their social media somebody coming onto their inbox and reflect and telling them, if my candidate wins, I will, very bad word, I will rape you and I will kill you, right? This is a specific journalist who was assigned, obviously it's a well-known journalist and they work for a well-known platform. So that's one. The other was a musician that we have used as part of that campaign, who was brutally bullied online because of repeating an outfit, right, when they're speaking at an event like this, or singing, or any other thing, right? Those are just some of the different forms of the violence and how it manifests. The other was a former contestant of Miss Namibia, who, if you might remember some times ago, those photos of the contestants as they submit them, they're not always polished, right? You submit them as they are within your natural format. So it has happened then at that point that the organization posted the photos as they are, and the bullies came and went for those contestants. That's the third. I think I'll stick with those three. So really looking at that as a community, I think maybe that is answering to the question of the preference. Right. But again, this is our young people within the professional settings. But in really broadening that question of who's affected, think of anybody who is online. Think of any women, any girls who is online and who is seen, right? In many of the cases, we also realize that there is also women who are not online at all. Anybody remember in this room an auntie called Mevivi? Yes. Right? Mevivi died 5, is it even 5? Maybe 7 years ago, right? Her photos are still online, right? Who was putting her online and making fun of her? It is everyday people. She has never consented, for instance, and creating those social media posts herself. This again just broadening the aspect of the violence and how it is manifesting online. So you have many of those aspects of the violence. It is true, it is real, it is affecting women and girls, men to some extent, and it is prevalent in a number of spaces, right? So for instance, for women in political spaces, of women who are visible, think of elections, right? Whether it is university, student leadership elections, right? You'll see whether it is now photos, whether it is a non-consensual image sharing or intimate sharing of those girls. But think of any other thing. At this stage, we're also looking at AI manipulated images, right? An image that was taken within the context that you are appearing as it is, but somebody would undress you and make you, even put you on a porn website and make you look like that was you. And it becomes very, very difficult of disapproving that this was not me. Exactly. But maybe as part of really stepping back is a couple of years when we started to research this, and this is because of many of other exposures in the other international spaces, is that many women couldn't tell what was happening, right? Everybody was going online, everybody was getting in touch or getting exposed to this very unpleasant feeling, right? Why is it that every time I post a photo, somebody is posting a meme of somebody vomiting, right? Or what do you call it? There's toch an emoticon that is vomiting, right? That is violence to an extent, right? A lot of women, a lot of girls have those experiences, but for a long time they could not articulate what is it that, right? Is it violence? How is it violence? Where do I go to report it? One of the cases, we had a girl that we worked with, or a young lady that we worked with at the Internet Society at that time, who had a similar case, exactly the same one as we had in this room today. She's gone to the police. At that time, the police didn't know what it is, right? They were like, they started laughing at the girl. I think 3 days later, she comes back, and because her then boyfriend has happened that he would create a new profile, post all sort of disparaging things about her on Facebook, delete it every time she complains or she asks people to report it, and then tomorrow create another one, right? At that time, again, it was that period where, for instance, platforms were not associating cell phone numbers or to a specific account. Yeah. So there's so many of those things. I remember that case, and I think we've been working with Chief Inspector Shivikwa at the Namibian Police at that time, that I think the first instance the police officer was laughing. The second, they had asked her, we don't know what is this, go to the Child and Women Protection Unit at Katutura Hospital. The third, the guy was called in, he was asked to delete, he deleted, and then it kept coming up. So there was also a longer period of lack of capacity. I'm sure that we have obviously closed those gaps, but there's been a lot of that. So in terms of preference, think of any woman that is online. Think of women in politics, because they also come, as particularly during political spaces, they come online and they come and tell the voters about their mandate and what they are going to do, right? So because because the online violence take place in an instance that is reflecting offline realities, right? Remember, there's no disconnection, right? Africa in general as a continent is very patriarchal, right? We've had here, a man would do that and go on social media, post the photos, and tell this is the girl and this is what she has done. It takes a lot for a woman to do that. I'm not too sure if there's any other woman who would do that, who would subject any other human to such extent of humiliation. So that doesn't happen. So because men has always been seen as, you know, powerful, they hold their leaders, that to a certain extent gives them the power to do that, to dehumanize, to set the tone in a relationship, and so to an extent that happens online. Whatever happens offline, I think you were just talking about Magdalena Stoffel, Juanita Mabula, all of those were victims of real offline violences, and it's the same way that it happens online.
Is there like an age margin there? Because I think I'm very interested in the disparity. So
ordinarily 13 to 24, because that's the biggest margin of young people who are online. But of course, it's also different on platforms. So for instance, you see on platforms like Facebook, where you have over 800,000 Namibians, you find that women are the largest communities there. So you find women 13 to 45, right? That is really where the prevalence is. Because those people, when they are online, they are there to find opportunities, they're there to share their narratives, they're there to connect, educate, but also they are there to really share what is it that is happening with their communities and try to find solutions there. So the patriarchy then tells you, who are you? Why are you saying this? And so I'm coming for you, and sort of shut you off, if that is the word. Yeah.
I'd like to talk to Ms. Monica now, and again, because we can clearly understand that it could trickle from online to offline violence, but I'd like to take a look at the framework as far as the Namibia's current legal framework addresses technology-facilitated gender-based violence. What gaps exist, first of all, in criminalizing acts like deepfakes, non-consensual intimate image sharing, and cyber stalking?
Thank you very much for the question, Franklin. I would first like to say Namibia has a very progressive constitution. Like so many African countries, we have one of the most beautiful constitutions, which actually protects or guarantees freedom of expression. Everyone, the constitution says everyone has a right to freedom of speech. You can literally say whatever you want. However, Article 22 of the Constitution puts a limitation or a restriction to these rights. And as much as everyone has a right to say, to express themselves, there are limitations as to prevent or restrict you from including or the right to freedom of speech does not cover categories of harassment, incitement to violence, and that's where gender-based violence comes in. So right now the gaps that exist is the law enforcement and our judiciary, as well as the lawyers. Because when digital gender-based violence is perpetrated against you, your first stop is the law enforcement and the lawyers. They are sometimes not well trained to actually respond to such incidents. The law enforcement, they are there, they are trained, but they are few that are actually trained to handle gender-based violence cases. And also, when it comes to the judiciary, the judges are trained in such a way that they can understand when you present the evidence to them. Because our Constitution already protects human rights So the protections are already entrenched in our constitution. And if the lawyer presents their case to the judge properly, the judge will be able to make a determination. However, much needs to be done to train the lawyers on how to prevent even evidence to get the justice that they need for their client, because it's a hurdle. It's a hurdle because even to collect evidence on gender-based violence now, you need forensic, for example, and all of us knows there's not many people that are trained in that area. Secondly, the cost also involved. As much as we are encouraging people to go out there and report digital gender-based violence, the cost of litigation, we know it's a hurdle. And a trend is now also there that people that perpetrate these actions are in foreign countries. So for you to get the justice from someone that is harassing you online, who is in Europe, for example, it's a hurdle and it's very costly. And again, the aspect of re-traumatizing the victim, because now you have to go to law enforcement, you have to recount what happened to you, It's very you are re-traumatized over. And our justice system is not designed from a perspective of care. It's actually designed to get you justice. However, it's not clear-cut, and it's not easy, and it's not fast. So those are some of the gaps that exist.
So it's the cost of reliving that moment again. And I think I'd like to borrow from her here on the issue of proper training. Senior Inspector Pahola, let's really take a look at, as Namibia continues to see rising reports of online grooming, cyberbullying, stalking, and sexual exploitation affecting children. What mechanisms are in place for survivors to safely report digital violence, both in rural and urban setting? And again, her issue here, how can law enforcement be better trained to handle such cases with sensitivity, technical competency, and perhaps a sense of urgency?
Thank you very much for the questions. And let me also thank the organizers for inviting NAMPO. NAMPO is always ready for engaging or working with other stakeholders. We thank you for that. The question, I'll just answer it in this way that the reporting, there will be no to say we must have a reporting, a mechanism of mentioning that this is ABC, but the reporting is just to encourage people to report to each and every entity, which is a trustful entity. Let's say the police stations, they are there in the communities, the rural and urban areas, there are police stations, and also the ministries. Let's say the ministries, like Ministry of Gender, they have offices in the regions where people, they can report this type of GBV. There's also some portals where I can mention, like for Childline or Child Lifeline, they have a portal where, but this one is now we are putting it in a sense of kids or children, where you can report a certain violence which you detected online. That is the one we can report. And the other thing also, we just also encourage whoever is experiencing this type of violence, online violence or digital violence, share with whoever you think you can share with let's say if it's couples, share with maybe your pastors or the community leaders or anyone who can help you on that. What we are saying is only that people, they must not shy to report, they must report on whatever they experience on that.
I'd like us to go back as far as the research is concerned, really, and take a look at, because there has to be some sort of, some sort of difference between what's happening online and what's really happening offline. Like you said earlier, there are people who perhaps characters are defamed, people whose images are used non-consensually, people who don't even know that their images exist on these platforms. But thinking about that, technology, social science, and public health, how can they collaborate sort of to design evidence-based interventions against online abuse?
Right.
That's one. Two, perhaps, are we strategized in such a way, especially in Namibia, when it comes to online reform policies, are we in a position where we are able, as an example, for some, how fast is it really to accrue or to acquire some sort of justice when you're defamed online, when somebody has used your images non-consensually, and when they're reported? Is that an actual act of crime, or is that just banter between two people? Right.
Thank you again, Franklin, for the question. So in terms of what can we do as stakeholders, we see in other countries, but I also see that we have made a lot of progress as a country in collaborating between institutions and creating sort of mechanisms for reporting, right? This in itself speaks to that, right? You have the police here, you've got the the LRDC here and the academia. So I think to a certain extent that is part of the many attempts that we can get to. The reporting in itself, so I'll give you an example. We've done a report in 2021. It was funded by Facebook, and we launched it here with the former Minister of Justice, Honorable then Dausab. We've also launched that report in 4 other countries. The report is focusing on 8 African countries, Southern African countries. And it is published by the University of Pretoria, the Center for Human Rights. That report indicates, for instance, in countries like Malawi, they've got a reporting line, a toll-free line that would be provided, for instance, by Telecom, and it is just for reporting gender-based violence online. Right, and then that links, for instance, then those cases directly to the police without re-traumatizing, or at least a minimization of re-traumatizing and getting getting it addressed too. But there are a lot of challenges, right, in the articulation, as I've mentioned, as to understanding how is this violence, right? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done for education. I think for us in this room, we are privileged to understand. But given the countries like ours, but also many in the Southern African countries, or in Africa in general, there's this digital divide, right? Where people have a lot of devices, right? Even in the villages. And these very experiences that we are talking about here, they are also experiencing it. But because of the lack of education, the lack of awareness, they also do not understand what is it that is happening to me, right? So there's those gaps in terms of awareness, teaching, and that requires grassroots organizations, for instance, to do that, but also also knowledge that is produced by academia, amongst others. The other is that there's just lack of data that should inform policy change, should it be. I think my colleague here was saying that the Constitution broadly protects a lot of freedoms, right? But again, we're seeing so many of those cases, and many of them have been documented. But because if I ask, I don't want to put my colleague on the spot, if I ask the Namibian police today and say, please, can you give me the cases that were reported to you this year on online gender-based violence? They are not able to give me that data. Right. And it is not really their challenge, right? It is, broadly, look at it from a national perspective. Government is trying to say, I need to feed people, right? Maybe there's a drought, there's lack of schools. So how do you create all of those balances and really try and make sure that you address people's needs in particular, right? How much of this is a priority compared to what have we seen, for instance, lack of tables in schools, right? But again, it requires concerted effort by all stakeholders.
Right.
But the lack of data really sort of disable us to really address policy gaps and say, but colleagues, there has been 10,000 cases that were reported this year. This in itself is a call for us to make sure that the policies, the act, even I think our the gender-based violence strategy should, at this case, in this instance, look at online violence and treat it as a real violence that is posed to women. I think in 2022, we launched a report. Some of the colleagues at the UNDP, we've engaged with them, with the former First Lady. It was funded by the Web Foundation. And really, that report is also online, and I will be able to share a copy here. It is looking at the status of women's rights online in Namibia. At that point, the statistics were very, very low. Again, this was 2022. And really recognizing to what extent is our laws looking at even technology beyond the violence as a tool that empowers women, right? That speaks to all of the other intersectionality within technology and gender, say education, for instance. So there's those gaps. It requires all of us to work together. Unfortunately, we also work very much in silos as stakeholders, right? We do not, I don't know if it's maybe the way, if it's a funding mechanism, for instance, but we work very much, everybody does their own work, right? But we also appreciate that we come together in instances like this and share what we know, yeah. I've spoken to the issues of awareness and education. How do we teach, how do we tell a victim of online violence, or a survivor in this case, that this is the steps that you can take? Go to the police in so-and-so police station. There is so-and-so sergeant who is trained in, you know, and sensitized on online gender-based violence. That's a safe person, and they will be able to link you to other, say, legal officers within your region or within your constituencies who are also trained to a certain extent, and this is how your case is going to be addressed to. So what we are seeing right now is, I'm looking at the room and I'm trying not to mention names, is people who have an understanding, who have money, who can afford a lawyer, who knows that I have rights, and this is, what is the specific term I think that a person would go to court for? I think it's defamation. Who would know this is defamation, right? I don't think my grandmother knows about defamation. My aunt in the village does not understand defamation. They know that something is happening, I don't like this feeling, but we need really, people need to be educated, awareness, and then be made to understand these are the steps that you are able to take. Right now, it's those who have money, or as somebody has said, the triple C, capital, cash, and I think, I don't know what, another one. Really, that will help me to get justice. An everyday person will shut off the computers, will remove themselves from the social media platforms. That means they lose agency of who they are, and that's it. And the violence continues and be meted to the next person,
I think we can perhaps agree in the room that there seems to be certain cultural practices or certain cultural norms that justify specific behavior, and those behaviors are looked at as part of who we are as a people. But ideally also, it seems to me that the issue of gender-based violence, especially online, because it has to trickle from there for it to be a reality, there has to be an existing legal framework specifically for that area. Again, so you're saying there's got to be a consortium. There has got to be an understanding between these specific entities so that women and girls alike know that there is a specific division that is efficient, that is competent, that is within the legal framework. It's designed specifically for this. So we don't want where you've got a docket of these specific cases, and these cases are lumped onto that one. And again, it's an issue of reliving that trauma. But I'd like to get back to the legal framework, because we would like for accountability. People must be held accountable, whether or not it's a legal, whether or not it's a, a cultural practice. And so you find that women and girls, and especially in rural areas, often have limited access to support. And so what legal reforms or support systems would make digital justice, one, more accessible, especially for women in rural areas? Because I think with the urban, maybe you've curbed the issue of access to information, access to technology, but you've got women in the rural areas and girls who do not know that what they are suffering is an actual violence. And so how then? And so what legal reforms or support systems would make digital justice more accessible for them?
On the legal framework, at the moment, Namibia does not have a direct legal framework that deals with cyber crimes or digital GBV. We, as much as we are drawing from the Constitution and the Child Protection Act and the Domestic Violence Act of 2003, there is no direct bill. Namibia is now busy with the Cybercrime and Data Protection Bill. It's still underway. However, there are so many avenues at the rural level. For example, the magistrate courts, they are equipped to provide protection in terms of protection orders in order to cap some of these incidents where the victims can go and apply for a protection order to protect themselves and to order the perpetrator to stop the incident. Yes.
So that is what exists now. And I'd like for us again, because you see, that and the law enforcement are ideally the very first two institutions that victims would have to go report to anyway. So perhaps beyond law enforcement, because I know such thing as community policing, there's an issue of communal responsibility, because part of the perpetuation means that somebody in that group, in that fraternity knows, and so the lack of speaking or the silence perpetuates it. But beyond law enforcement, Senior Inspector, what role can communities, schools and workplaces play in holding perpetrators accountable and creating a culture of zero tolerance for online abuse? And I'm saying this to balance it with, we have a lot of repeat offenders in this specific area, but that's because the law is, or at least the repercussions don't seem to really stick or be effective that much. And so there's constant repeat offending. And so how can we curb that? First of all, by sensitizing communities and schools, but how can it be in such a position where, because part of what makes it difficult for women and girls to go report is because it's a loop. They keep doing it and the offender is in and they're out. And so how then can law enforcement, what role can communities, schools and workplaces play in holding these perpetrators not just accountable, but making sure that they are held at the highest form of accountability?
Thank you very much once again. Before I answer your questions, I would like to compliment or to answer to the colleagues what they mentioned earlier. The first one, I will talk about the training, or how we can fill up the gap for training, let's say from the side of law enforcement, the judicial side, or other part of. What we are saying is that to fill up this gap of training, it's not just a one-man show. We need a collaborative, we need the stakeholders. Police officers or law enforcement will not be able to make it alone. If there's any entities with willing to support or saying, no, we would like to send some members for certain training. Let's say now we are talking about digital, in a certain investigation to know how to investigate. I think there will be no any institution which will not accept the offer as long as it's a genuine offer. The other one also, I would like to also to clarify or to add on my colleague here, he mentioned about the data or statistic. Because she just asked a question of saying, let's say if now you go to the police and then you ask the statistic for the crimes or digital violence, yes, you will not get a specific data for or statistic for the crimes which are opened online or digital crimes. Reason being, as the colleague also mentioned here, lack of cyber law, or in absence of the cyber law, as you know that the crimes, each crime is the one which let's say now we want to go and ask data for murder cases, or maybe rape case, or fraud, or any other things. Crimes, they are having crime code. That's why it will not be easier just to get that data or that specific statistic for digital crimes, because they are not documented of calling them that this is online harassment or this is type of crime. But, or however, these type of crimes, they are not just looked at with a blind eyes, they are dealt with, and the perpetrators are at heart, and the law enforcement is busy with it. We are using the common laws or other piece of legislations. Going back to your questions on how the law enforcement and the schools should work, here the law enforcement is I alluded first on my thinking of when I said that we are always ready to work with any stakeholders, and it's our duties to protect the life and properties. And life, when we are talking about life, school, there are kids, or people who are working there, whoever is there is life. School itself is also property. And in that, the law enforcement will always be willing to work together with the school management or Ministry of Education, as we are already working with them. It's just a matter of organizing any event. Let's say, for example, you want to make a campaign talking about digital violence, or how can you be safe, talking about the safety of online. And also on that campaign, is where you're also going to mention the good thing of being online, or why you must not worry being online. It's just like to encourage whoever the school environment of doing that. And also when at school also with law enforcement, we also encourage maybe the teachers who are dealing, let's say the caregivers, those who are dealing with the small ones, and also at schools, these life skill teachers, they can also be trained on computer literacy or digital literacy, so they can able to attend to this type of reports.
Right.
Yes.
Franklin, please, if you allow me, this is just to add to the colleagues. So, the Namibia Communications Act, number 8 of 2009, and I know that it has been going under review. Section 117 deals with online violence. Again, that is, I got to learn about it because of this work, right, or the research work. Those are the kind of information that we need to get out there. So I'll just quote it here. It says that Section 117(1)(c) makes it an offense for any person who by any means of a telecommunications device knowingly makes, creates, solicits, and initiates the transmission of any comment, request, suggestion, and proposal of image or any other communication that is obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, and indecent, with the intent to annoy, to abuse, threaten, and harass any other person. If anybody is found guilty of such violations, can face up to 5 years and 20,000 as a fine. So, for instance, you have those provisions. But again, just adding to that, and knowing this and getting this out of this room and to the girls in the rural communities requires all of us and concerted effort, yes.
Some sort of community outreach, I think,
right.
Should be in order. In the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, I've got here Ms. Vanius Nashilongo, Technology Policy Researcher, as well as Ms. Monica Ngoshi, the Legal Officer, Directorate of Law Reform, Policy and Legislation, as well as Senior Inspector Gabriel Pahula from NAMPO under Cyber Crime Investigation Unit, Organized Crime Division. We'll proceed now with the second part of the panel discussion. This was sort of to deal with the academia, but it's always important to hear from the ground, the people themselves. And so when we get back from this one, we'll then deal with that, and my amazing co-host will deal with the second part of that discussion. Please stay seated while we quickly just change to the next discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll come in. They'll come and unmic you guys. Don't worry. Thank you very much. They'll come and unmic you guys. Don't worry. Thank you very much. They'll come and unmic you guys. Don't worry. Thank you very much. They'll come and unmic you guys. Don't worry. Thank you very much.
First, what is digital GBV? This is any act of violence against a woman or girl, man or boy, that is committed, assisted, or aggravated by the use of information and communications technologies. It aims to shame, silence, or control. What is the difference between GBV? Physical GBV leaves visible scars. Digital GBV leaves invisible yet equally painful scars. GBV can happen in private spaces, such as WhatsApp groups, DMs, and family chats.
Private spaces,
such as WhatsApp
groups,
DMs, and family chats.
Private spaces, such as WhatsApp groups, DMs, and family chats. Private spaces, such as WhatsApp groups, DMs, and family chats.
From the heart of Africa, where stories unfold, voices are heard, and the pulse of the nation beats. Welcome to NBC One, Namibia's most trusted news source. At NBC One, we bring Namibia and the world to you. Join us for a full range of content, news, interviews, documentaries, live parliamentary broadcasts, and so much more. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay connected. NBC One, your source for news that matters.
Catch me in Dilime Namibia this Sunday as I'll be talking to the one and only Sinaj on hope, restoration, as well as God's timing. And her story will be a reminder that delay is not denial. So please, Namibia, stay tuned.
Looking for the best in local entertainment? NBC2 is your home channel. Brighten up your little one's mornings with Sunshine Club, a fun and educational kiddies show.
Stay tuned.
For the youth, Just Teens brings you the latest trends and entertainment.
renewal of vows, future repercussions of that.
Get inspired by real-life change makers on Legend of Change. Find faith, hope, and inspiration with uplifting religious programs. Stay informed with On the Street with City Police, keeping you safe and street smart. Celebrate love, culture, and grand moments on the Wedding Show. And for the sports lovers, we've got all the action from local soccer, rugby, and more. Love local music? Watagwan brings you the hottest beat. Catch it all, Channel 102 on NBC Decoder and Channel 283 on DSTV. NBC2, your home channel.
Get ready to capture the real Namibia. NBC is commissioning a 26 episodes, 26-minute reality series, budget of 281,500 Namibian dollars. From inspiring social experiments and community challenges to personal stories of courage, your series should reflect Namibia's national priority agenda. Submit your proposals by 15 January 2026.
Mamadou is a welfare organization coping with children's fundamental and daily needs. It is situated in the Ochomise area in Windhoek and was formed in 2008 with the aim of improving children's present living conditions and their...
Here is a person with a disability that has empowered herself, that has gone to school, that is in training to become a nurse. But someone is poking at this person. They don't know, they have no idea how much this person had to build themselves up in order for them to present themselves at the taxi rank to go follow their dreams. So things like that, you will find someone just takes a picture of a person on a wheelchair. I'm sure if they saw me at a club, I'll be trending. And not for the good reasons. It will be because of ableism. People look at you and they are like, you in a wheelchair, how could you be doing what you're doing? They would not be cheering me on and saying, well done on getting out of your safe space, or on getting out of your four walls to go get your life. That will not be the conversation. The conversation will be at the fact that I'm a person with a disability that is out here by myself doing what I'm not supposed to be doing. So already people with disabilities are caged. And then that is posted online, like we have heard from the different panelists who were before us. Digital online violence continues, or it starts physically in our world, and it's escalated online. So there are so many things that I could say, but because of time, I would say all that. People with disabilities, you would find them very dependent on people around them, and because of this dependency, someone could be taking pictures. Oh, my cute child, but then they don't know what other people are thinking about this. So even the person that is posting this online, even if they intend it for the best, it doesn't always come out as good. And also, the barriers could be that as a person with a disability or a visual impairment, you would want to find out information about how to report gender-based violence, and you go to some types of applications or websites, but they might not be compatible to some types of screen readers, so that you get the information that is on that website. And some videos might not even have the right captions because they are captured by AI. So taking that time to actually transcribe videos that are information to the people, that are inclusive to the people that are around us, that would also empower people with disabilities. So those could be some of the barriers that people with disabilities face. Yeah.
Having mentioned the barriers, what do you think, or how can we make digital spaces more safer and more inclusive for everybody?
We start with inclusive policing. If law can criminalize ableism, if law can clearly criminalize that, if I post someone online, worse off you are a person with a disability,
Yes.
or somebody generally, if you're defaming this person online, it is a criminal act.
Yes.
If that is empowered, then people will stop doing whatever they're doing. And also, what was the question?
How can we make online spaces more inclusive?
More inclusive,
and safe
yes.
for everybody.
Making sure if you are a visually impaired person, there are apps there's a specific app that is called JAWS. It's very expensive. So disability is very expensive. So if us as civil society, as government, could collaborate and make these apps, these softwares available to the people that need them, that would be empowering someone. Making sure that sign language interpretation is not just at these platforms,
Yes.
but it's on TV, it's on those UN videos that we watch, it's on the NBC platforms, which is already there, on all platforms, on our TikTok information, that is just quick information that we give out, making sure that that is accessible. And also how we can improve this, we have organizations that work with people with disabilities. They have the expertise, they are the people on the ground, so collaboration in a room like this is very important. Thank you.
Collaboration is very important, and it starts with each and every one of us. Ms. Pefimbo, your programs work directly with youth and vulnerable groups. What preventative measures or digital literacy approaches have proven effective in helping young people stay safe online?
Thank you very much, Tulika. When you're working with young people, it's not an easy thing of saying, don't do, right? Things must be practical, things must be relatable, for them to be able to either protect themselves or be able to follow what it is that we are putting out there. And with that, I think it's very important, and with us, what we do within the Be Free space, for example, is to make sure that young people are well informed, well educated, and if you look at understanding what are the safety measures when it comes to your online platforms, how do you protect yourself when it comes to your online space? Do you have your passwords? And with that, a part of the programs that we give at the Be Free Youth Campus, we have the computer literacy, you have the robotics, and that's just promoting a safe, or rather promoting good use of internet, because internet it's a big thing, it's a positive thing, it's something that we can use either to learn, education. There's so much that we can do, but how can young people responsibly use the internet space? That's one of the focus for us. And when young people know how to responsibly use the online platform, it helps them to understand, how can I protect myself? What can I do to make sure I protect myself within that space? And of course, with that comes also making use of young people to come up with interventions. So young people's voices are also very important when it comes to protecting young people. So do we put them in the forefront, when it comes to these programs? What is it that they need? So including them, it's also quite a big, a very important aspect when it comes to, preventative measures for, safety on online. But also, how do we look at, services that are offered through online? How do we, and if you look at a lot of things, we are in 2025, there's a lot of use of
AI, but how do we make use of that to promote a good use of internet, and how do we use that maybe to look at how do you report through online platforms, because a lot of young people are using the digital platforms, they are online. Maybe we capture them through that by the use of internet to be able to make sure young people are protected.
Thank you. So data shows that there is a link between digital violence and mental health outcomes. What are the trends? What have you noticed when it comes to Namibia?
You know, with using online platforms comes a lot of pressure, you know, because young people go on, and the previous speakers were talking about maybe you looking at learning, career advancing opportunities, and all that. But now, sometimes there's also a lot of pressure to see, oh, this is what other people are achieving. Why am I not there? And there's a lot of, you know that pressure from, you know, we can call it peer pressure. Sometimes can be that. Now, a lot of people are, or young people can be kind of forced into, you know, achieving certain things, and that's where they can also be captured, you know, because if you look at online, the targets online, and I think some of our colleagues from NAMPOL, you know, they did a very good presentation recently when we did the day of, when we did the 16 days, when it started off with 16 days of activism, in terms of sometimes it can be, yeah, there's this platform where they're looking for models, for example. And because you have seen other young people doing so well, maybe in modeling and all that, they kind of believe, maybe I must apply, maybe I must be part of this as well. And in the end, they are kind of lured into sharing pictures. You know, they will start off maybe with some bikini pictures. And when it comes to abusers that use those platforms, they can also pretend to be certain people. And they can also look for ways to say, okay, this person, if this person was able to do this, they can move it further into saying, you know, it's a competition for you to make it through. You can maybe send more without, you know, your bra, so that I can help you move to the next stage. Yes. Just an example. So sometimes young people are lured into that. And it can become quite unsafe. And if you can, you had a second question.
That was the second question. What is the relationship between mental health and digital violence? And I think you touched on the pressure that comes with the trends from social media, where often young people follow trends. There's a certain lifestyle that a group of people are living on social media, and while that's a reality for that person, and because you want to be there and to live that certain lifestyle, you put so much pressure on yourself that it stresses you out, number one. And I think we have also seen cases of kids committing suicide. We often find that certain students perform better, and because Tuilika is not performing the way Perfimbo is performing, I'm going to be so stressed out that it reaches a point where I self-harm, you know. So you touched on that. Now I want to come to Ms. Feliciana. I'm so sorry for the name. Yes. In what ways can technology be harnessed to empower, not endanger, marginalized groups, including women, girls, persons with disabilities, as well as people from the LGBTQI community?
Thank you very much for that question. As much as we are today looking at digital violence, technology can also bring a positive aspect when it comes to job creation. So when harnessed responsibly, technology can improve health and safety, and technology can also strengthen economic development and also empower women, in the sense that women can advertise their products online without being in danger, without going out there, without endangering themselves. And when we are looking at education, it can reach everybody that has access to technology. And when we look at people living with disabilities, they can sit in the comfort of their own home and attend online classes, and as well as vulnerable girls, they can also. And when we look at culture, for example, you find cultures whereby a girl is not allowed to go to school, but because of technology, this young girl can access education, and they can attend online classes, and that is why technology is so important. And when we are looking at safety, technology can protect you because we have online reporting services. So, and it can be faster than if you have to pick up a telephone and call the police. For example, with city police, for example, there is an online SMS where you can SMS online and you can be anonymous. I'm a former city police officer, that is why I know that. And we have, city police have actually, sorry for saying we, because I still put myself in in the shoes of a city police officer or police officer, but it has really helped a lot of women because somebody wants to remain anonymous or they do not want to call because the perpetrator is in the room, so it's better for them to send an SMS, and when they send an SMS, they will tell you exactly where they are, and within 5 seconds or within 10 minutes, the police is there. So as much as there is violence online, but technology can also help and can also save women and girls that are vulnerable.
Thank you so much. So, saying that it is our responsibility as individuals as well to ensure that we keep ourselves safe while on social media and not blindly be on these platforms and not ensuring that we have, first of all, we know what to do online. If we ever encounter or feel that this might be somebody who's coming off and making me very uncomfortable, what you can do. Part of the previous panel also mentioned about the different physical places or institutions that you can go to report. So it is important that we do not keep quiet. And if it's that somebody next to you who is being harassed on social media, it then also becomes your responsibility to do something about it rather than sit and watch. Master Ryan, Namibia has a very young population with 71% being under the age of 35 years. And of that, 34 is between the age of 15 and 35. Considering the rise in online engagement among adolescents, is it perhaps not time to integrate digital literacy, online safety, and responsible internet use into formal curriculum from primary school through secondary school? What are your thoughts?
That's a very good question too, Ilika. I think the short version of my answer to your question is yes. I think digital literacy is very important. The reason why I say so is because I just want to share with you that there is a very big opportunity in ICT, and I think as a community we are not ready to contribute globally towards that opportunity. So once it's integrated from a school level, we will then have young people be able to leverage opportunities globally. And also, I think maybe majority of us in the room have received a spam text before. It could be on Instagram, it could be on Facebook. And I believe majority of us at least could navigate our ways out of that because we are somehow knowledgeable about some of these other areas. But for the adolescents, especially for those who are in rural areas, who aspire to one day finish school and come to a big city such as Windhoek and pursue their lives further, they would fall victim to this. Yes. If, for example, a person appears to their inbox and tells them that there is a modeling opportunity like the previous speaker was just mentioning now, and she sees that she has the qualities of a model, but however, the environment does not support that. This girl could have been somebody from the Zambezi, and these are mainly taboo topics when you come from a community such as Zambezi. And this girl would maybe want to have this as a private part of her life where she has this social media presence, but she does not talk about it in her community. And that makes her a bit more vulnerable because now she won't be able to seek for support because she knows that the environment that she lives in does not talk about set issues like that. So if we bring these conversations in school, I think what I prepared for you is that there is what I like to call the triple wall of silence. And I think I'll get into that right now. But the triple wall of silence would be broken down should digital literacy be integrated in schools. And the first element it's going to break down is stigma. Most of the time, if somebody falls prey, specifically for a girl, falls prey, she sent her pictures to this anonymous person who appeared in her eyes to be somebody who was going to help her. In most times, the communities ask questions like, but what was running in your mind when you were sharing these pictures to somebody you don't know? And that shifts blame. So the moment we have digital literacy integrated into our schools, we are now then going to have conversations on how do we destigmatize victims that fall prey to online perpetrators. And then the second part is the structural part of it. The previous speaker here, we had a police officer, and I think even if I should go to one of the police station in Shukmansbeek, a very rural area in Zambezi region, and I'm being abused online, I'm doubtful whether or not, I'm doubtful whether I will really get the support from that area. So there is an institutional barrier that a lot of young people are facing, especially those who are found in rural areas. So once these conversations are integrated into schools, it then becomes a community dialogue. We have important gatekeepers in the Zambezi region, such as traditional leaders, and they are key players in safeguarding as well as improving the safety nets of their communities. And digitally, I don't think our traditional leaders do have that capacity to do so. But once these conversations emanate from schools, these traditional leaders are parents, these traditional leaders attend these parents' meetings. So the conversation will then now start to go ahead in the community, and this improves that community safety net. And then the third component of the triple wall of violence that I mentioned is the psychological part. What happens to somebody when they are abused? Normally, they internalize that blame and think that it is their fault, and then they close in. They no longer participate in their communities positively. So once this education is integrated at a very young age, it then makes us have a community that understands the digital world, and we are able to get further opportunities from there. Because we might all be landlocked, but the moment we are digitally connected, it means we can move the world from where we are.
Thank you so much. Very important to have digital literacy incorporated into our school systems. So we have spoken about how fighting against digital violence is not a one-man's responsibility. It is the responsibility of different institutions, starting with ourselves. I'm going to go on to Ms. Letitia. Globally, the UN supports countries in strengthening digital safety frameworks. How has the UN been supporting Namibia to accelerate its national response to digital violence?
Thank you so much for the question. Indeed, the UN system in Namibia is comprised of various agencies that are working in this area, and this includes the United Nations Population Fund, UNICEF, UNESCO, UN Women. They all have global programs, regional programs, as well as country interventions in the various regions. Indeed, the UN is known, the UN's niche is really around bringing global knowledge as well as experiences and lessons learned, and bringing them to country level into the national fabrics through what we call localization actions, which just means that bringing theory, putting theory, translating theory into practice, and vice versa as well. creating local language and take it global as well. I will share with you 3 accelerators which the UN system supports the national government here as well as partner. The first one is really around data and generating evidence in the area of gender-based violence, including digital violence as well. Of recent, for instance, UNFPA supported the Ministry of Gender Equality and Child Welfare to carry out a study to find out what is the cost of GBV in Namibia. And it revealed that Namibia is spending a lot of millions in responding to gender-based violence, which is really critical for the country to start thinking about the cost of inaction. And this includes digital violence as well. Another area is really around strengthening the frontline service providers. This is where we look at the various implementation tools. The UN has one of the global guidelines, which is called the Essential Service Package. This is a tool, a guideline that is used by multi-sectoral frontline service providers. This includes your police sector, your justice sector, the social sector, and the health sector as well. So we bring that global framework to countries to adapt it into national standard operating procedures. So that is one of the roles that the UN plays when it comes to service provision. And these guidelines are emphasizing on several principles: confidentiality, respect for dignity, respect for autonomy, make sure that the services are survivor-centered. And then the third accelerator is around prevention through addressing social norms. And here we support various interventions at community level with traditional leaders, as Rian has mentioned, with young people, in particular in and out of school. And then we have got also specific interventions around engaging men and boys as well. What I would want to mention also at country level, we also have got a program called Gender Equality and Combating of Gender-Based Violence. It's a project that is happening in several targeted regions, and it is being implemented both in collaboration with the Ministry of Gender as well as UNFPA, and it is financially supported by the European Union. So in this program, you would also find interventions around popularizing laws, legislations, service delivery, and then the issues of prevention as well. So those are some of the areas that I could share with you.
Thank you so much for a very enlightening and really giving us an overview of how the UN with different UN agencies, the role that they are playing in Namibia in terms of not only fighting against digital violence, but then also other issues. Because of time, we are not going to do the question and answer session now. What we'll do is that during the networking session, if you had any question, please do bring it to the front where we are engaging, ask the panelists, or you can share the question with us and we'll see how we can get you your answer. So closing off, and just a 1, 2, 3 word sentence. What concrete steps can we take in strengthening collaboration in combating digital gender-based violence in Namibia? We all are coming from different backgrounds. Just in 1, 2 sentences, what can we do? And anyone can go. Yes.
Okay, let me go first.
Okay, yeah,
okay.
you may,
Yes, I think I want to emphasize on because now we are speaking in terms of, there are 2 aspects actually: response and there's prevention. And if we can strengthen on prevention, so a lot of money is not spent on response, like Letitia was talking about. So, and with that, it means a lot of awareness. And as much as it might seem like we are talking away from home, we are not. Digital violence is a lot in Namibia. And of course, there's a lot of cases that we might not understand that it is actually digital violence. And there are a lot of cases that we are not aware of, or there are cases that are not reported as well. And it was about 2 days ago when, do we all remember the case of the lady that came from Brazil and she was caught in South Africa with drugs in the stomach? We remember. It was 2 days ago that actually from Mr. Pahula, when he did a presentation, because we were commemorating International Day of Persons with Disability, and we are also staying within that topic. So we invited him to do a presentation on online abuse. And it's when I realized, actually, myself, I am a social worker, but I didn't see it in that way. That actually this girl was captured online. For her to end up traveling to Brazil, she was promised and all that. She ended up traveling, and that's how they captured her. And I didn't know. So we are not talking away from home. It's things that are happening, and most of the time we are quick to not, either to judge and not understand what it is. So we are talking a lot at home. And with that, I want to emphasize on when it comes to now, of course, there is prevention, but now the side of response. If we look at, like Letitia said, survivor-centered approach, trust. Do we trust in the system that is helping or that is responding? Is the confidentiality? And with trust comes a lot in terms of, if I report, am I going to receive justice? That's the trust we are talking about in that system. Am I going to be helped in the, because a lot of young people don't really, for the trauma comes more during this process of trying to get justice than the incident itself. So that process, it's very important to make sure it's survivor-centered, it's trusted, there's confidentiality, and I do understand, for example, the young lady who spoke earlier to say, let me rather not expose my identity, because it can be us who spreads the news. It can be us who perpetuates the violence further. You know, it's one person who posted it, but who forwards it to the many, kind of thing. So I think I'll end there.
Maybe I want to speak as a parent right now. And we know that a lot of our children are going through digital violence. So as parents, maybe what we then should do is be extra vigilant. Look at your children's phones. Look at the sites that your children are visiting, and let us continue to educate and re-educate our children when it comes to speaking to strangers who we befriend online. Because if we look at who is more affected when it comes to online violence, it's actually the young children, our children. So as parents, we should be very, very and extra vigilant. Don't just give your child a phone and then you are just quiet. You do not know on which sites your child is going to. And also, if we can as parents, let us stop giving or buying our children cell phones. Let us rather give our children our phone so that we can monitor, or give a child a laptop that they can use for school, and give a child a phone when they are 18 or when they are 20, because children are now having phones at the age of 7. A 7-year-old is already having a cell phone, and this child is already going online, and this child is being abused online. So as parents, let us be parents, and let us not allow the cell phones to parent our children, because we do not want to parent our children. Now we are giving our children cell phones. So that is my final word.
Okay, I would say, I think I will just go back to the original question you asked me. Bring these conversations in schools. I think it's very important. Our parents, unfortunately, do not have the capacity to teach us about digital knowledge. And the school is one institution that's very accessible to our communities. So the moment we bring these subjects in school, I think the rates of GBV that happens online will decrease, because now you are having people who understand how to navigate the internet while maintaining your privacy or maintaining that confidential image online. So I think the moment we are to integrate such initiatives in schools, we are going to drive GBV where it belongs, and it belongs in no community.
I think for me, I would end off by saying accessibility is very important. Inclusivity is very important. As we are posting videos, as we are online, let's be aware of what we are looking at. And I think such platforms like this are very important of them going outside these four walls, because then it gives language to a person that didn't know that they were being abused. All of a sudden they are aware that if I post this, someone says this or someone claps back like this, then I become accountable for my own things, for my own postings online. So let's be aware of our surroundings. Let's give language to what we feel, and let's take this information beyond the four walls that we are in.
Ms. Letitia? Thank you very much. My final messages are really around the importance of integration of gender-based violence effort in everything that we do. And this includes your legal frameworks, your policy frameworks, your programming, your operationalization, the implementation. If we can capitalize in those opportunities to do integration, we'll be able to maximize the returns. The other issue is around moving from silos to synergies. Can you imagine a world where we collaborate more and we use partnership more? That would reduce duplication and use of resources to reach more and to do more. The other one is really around moving from framework policies to practice. We know Namibia is praised for good frameworks and policies, but implementation can be a challenge. And then lastly is really for all of us to personalize the issue of gender-based violence. If we are all able to relate and say, if that is me, how would it have affected? If that is me, how would I have preferred to be treated, to receive support and services and care? I think no one is safe until every woman, every girl in this country is safe. Yeah. We cannot say we are safe when we have got women and girls that are not safe from digital GBV. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for a very insightful, very comprehensive. And I think a point I wanted to make is touching on the role that we as young people can play. Often we see ourselves from a distance and say, hey, that is the Ministry of Gender's issue to resolve. That is the Ministry of Justice. That is the Ministry of Health. But then change starts with you. And as a young people, you do have the power to bring about change. Recently this year, I think the Ministry of Justice put out a call for people to submit if you want to contribute to a policy reform, a framework reform, and then you give your opinion. It starts with such activities you do. It can be through your research. You conduct research, and then you bring it to the attention of the relevant people, the relevant bodies. So don't see yourself as, I don't feel like I have the money. You don't need the money. You just need your voice and for you to take a step. We have a few minutes left. We have few time to spend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the audience to ask questions, state what your name is, what institution you are from, and let's keep it brief and straight to the point. Also, if it's directly specific to a panelist, that you can also state. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, you can. No, no, this is not covered.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Simon Hadula from Hadola Charity Foundation. I just have a question for my gentleman here. You talked most about integrating this into schools. So, like, what roles can civil societies and the community really play in supporting schools in terms of fighting this online gender-based violence here?
I think we can. Do we collect, or is it better? Let's collect, and then we'll answer them all at once.
Can you hear me? All right, all right. My name is Rivaldo Cohen Kurirap. I'm here representing 4 organizations, but I'm going to use the one that works with the initiative, KAYE. Kadedura Youth Empowerment Initiative. It works with digital literacy and multimedia. So I was listening to this conversation, and what I would give is more like a statement, not a question. So looking at our digital infrastructure in Namibia, we are really more like a developing country, but what we can actually do is our ITC should enable a security service program within the country that will protect and secure digital GBV. Because, you know, we can try and have a parental guidance program. We can try, and actually it's good to have a computer literacy at school to make it as a curriculum, because they're just having it as a light skill, so it doesn't work at all. And the other thing is, if we have this digital literacy enabled within the country that connects with something called the EID, that should actually help us secure our program in Namibia. Because without the EID, we will still have cyber security, we will still hack your accounts, and we will still make sure that we perpetrate you in a manner that it will destroy your identity. So that's one thing, and we take it as a joke in order to create content. We do not see that we are harming our community and society in a way. So I think that we need the electronic identification card enabling Namibia. That's the way to secure our future people and women. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making that important point. And I think we can use Rwanda as an example, a country that has also initiated the ID, digital ID, and provide a level of security that we don't have. So thank you. Any more question, comment?
Platform, and I think such an insightful cohorts of panels. My name is Ndailikana Paulus, and I'm representing SOS Children's Village. I had a couple of questions, but I think as the conversations went by, I think a lot of them were actually answered. I think I'm quite keen on understanding the study that the Ministry of Gender is actually conducting. When is the report ready? Is there anything that we can also use? Because SOS Children's Village is actually witnessing children that are affected as a result of GBV. And of course, that's why, of course, we need to, of course, also bring our voices to the table. But I think that report will be very much grateful to us as well as we incorporate it into our programs. Thanks. So just to understand, is the report ready? By when? And is it shareable? Can we at least also have it? Please, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine is just a contribution. My name is Senior Pastor John Mafokidze from Hope Initiatives Namibia. So my contribution is specifically to encourage what the panelists have already mentioned. Number one, I think starting from schools, it's very important that the officers, especially the police officers, should go to schools during assembly and probably address, you know, the children during the assembly time. And also, my second contribution is specifically to do with biblical principles. as a pastor, I think it's also important to just start from where we are coming from and where we are going as a nation. I think 95% we're all Christians, if I'm not mistaken. So it's very important to instill biblical principles from kindergarten, when the children as they are growing up, from kindergarten, and give them more information about what we are looking at now, or what we are facing, not only as a nation, but globally. We are talking of digital literacy that is coming up, but in instilling them, there are certain parameters that have to be drawn for them to know where to start from and where to end. And the last point is, biblically, when you look in the scriptures, we are fighting with the prince of the air. And from the gospel, this is something that has been already spoken of, that we have to face, that this prince of the air is the devil. So we have to deal with that, bringing biblical principles to our children. Thank you very much.
One more question here at the front.
I don't have question. I just want to add a comment. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Josephine Ngishongele from Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. And today here I'm representing Commerce School Task Force as a member. What I want, and I'm a social worker by profession, I want to encourage our survivor, all those survivors of cyber GB, or how do you call it? I'm speaking under correction, is a new term for me. I just want to encourage them to reach out and speak out, to deal with their own, that was a traumatic event, and they are not coping. You might think you are coping, but this stigma affect people. It affects people, the way you think, the way you walk, you are being affected. That's what I want to say. They must reach out. The help is available. There are social workers. They are based at for adults 18 and above. They are based at the Red Cross. They are from Ministry of Health. They are selling just a building with they are lending a building in the Red Cross. No appointment is needed. Their offices are opening Monday to Friday from 8 to 5 every day. All the languages are represented. For the children, they can also be attended at a Grace-Brook after school center. There are also social workers who are there to deal with children issues. And when we are visiting schools, we are always give awareness on the issues, especially on suicide prevention, because I'm also a vice chairperson of Commerce Suicide Prevention Task Force, and we also have opportunity also when they have a parent meeting also to say information with parents. What is important here? We need to create a conducive environment with our children, because if more things are happening, the taxi driver, you trusted with your child. If you are not asking your child, how was the school? They are even our children, the things they are doing, we don't know. They are even selling abortion pills with the money we give them. But how do you know? We lose life for our children. We must create environment where you sit down with your child and ask, how was the school? Sometimes we're dropping them at school. We think they are going in. They are not going into school. Yes, we must also have community engagement with our community leaders. We need to embed them with that. They need that knowledge. They don't have it. Community engagement is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If no question from the floor, there were two questions. Oh, okay. There was one question asked.
With regard to the question around the report on the study, on the economic cost of GBV. Indeed, the report is available, and the Ministry of Gender Equality and Child Welfare has already launched this report. So I am able to share it, and I can also check whether it is online with the Ministry of Gender Equality. If it is not, I can take up with the Ministry's communication person so that it is accessible online. And we can also share it online with on the UNFPA website, on the UN website as well, so that it is widely accessible. While the report really highlights the economic loss of GBV as a result of GBV, we also need we also know that it's more than just economic loss. I think we have been talking about the trauma. So there is quite a lot of negative impact, long life impact at individual level, family level, community level, and then the country at large as well. So let us continue to underscore that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was such a very insightful conversation, both from the panelists and the audience who... Is there a... Oh, there's a...
Well, you raised a very good question. How can civil society support? The education system is congested. I think we can all agree to that. Part of the reasons why performances are going low is because there's a lot on the shoulders of the teachers. And when you look at the ratios, how many learners for one teacher in a particular class, you'll be able to see that there is actually a need for civil society to come in and support. Specifically on the widespread of the conversation around online child sexual exploitation and abuse, I think civil society has done so much work in sensitizing different schools as well as communities around that. So that is the importance of having civil society organizations working with developmental partners as well as government agencies such as the Ministry of Education. So civil society organizations are very easy when it comes to research, are very easy when it comes to understanding new trends, are very easy when it comes to integrated specific personality approaches for if a child is affected and they would like to have a personality approach that looks at the specific need of that child. Civil society organizations have that capacity. So once that is done in a proper way, where civil society organizations support government institutions such as the Ministry of Education, I think these challenges that we are discussing today could be something of the past in the near future.
If I can just say one thing to add on, and I want to thank the Ministry of Education. We work very closely with the Commerce Directorate in the Ministry of Education, and they are really open to working with other organizations. They are very open we did recently a training on protective behavior for young children, and this is like protective behavior against gender-based violence. And this is one way of putting the initiative into schools through the teachers, through the life skills teachers, and they really are open. And if I can also just, what Letitia said in terms of collaboration, that's the one way we can what is the word? We can combat issues of GBV. So yeah, I just wanted to add on this. I think as different organizations, let's feel free to reach out to the ministries because they are really open to working with the civil societies as well. Yeah, and if I can, the pastor from HISA also mentioned that during school assemblies, or certain commemorated days, we can easily say we are going to schools, or during school assemblies, we are going to talk about this topic, and after a long period that can, we can raise enough awareness for young people on these issues.
If anything, collectiveness and collaboration should be the way we go forward in terms of addressing gender-based violence. Let's work collectively. Let's not work as individuals, as institutions alone.
coming together from your law societies to your non-profit sectors to our government institutions, collectively we can bring resources together, we can avoid to duplicate work, and we can reach wider communities, especially in rural areas where often are left behind because then sometimes services are decentralized or centralized around big cities like Windhoek. So it is our responsibility. It starts in our own households, whether we are parents, whether we have little cousins at home, they should be our responsibility. Their safety should also be our responsibility at home, in the physical spaces, but also online. Thank you so much for a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for staying through and really engaging with the panelists. And I hope that as we go forward, we take what we have learned here and not just pack it at home, but we act upon it. We have come to the end of our panel discussion. Myself and my co-host, Franklin, haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's still here. I hope he's there at the back. Call to action, Franklin.
All right, 1, 2, and 2. Did we enjoy the conversation? I could tell we are exercising patience because I'm there where the food is at. If you leave early, you don't get to eat, and so it's good that we're keeping the food towards the end. But I think it was absolutely necessary to have both these conversations before we do the call to action. The idea with the call to action is to say, what would be the main objective really? What is your role? What would be your mandate? Because sometimes we speak about these things in silos, and then we leave and we don't take up responsibility. But it is our job. And so if we're going to end it, it has to start with this room here. There's enough people in this room to run a very powerful campaign. And so that's what the call to action is. So what we'll do is we'll run through the call to action, and I'll install this video you can see there by the screens. Technology is helping us today. So we'll watch that video, and after that video, we will do our vote of thanks. And so I think we're just gonna go back and forth, isn't it? And so as we move toward closing, one key truth stands out. One, as far as a call to action, digital violence is real, it is growing, and it demands coordinated action.
Our call to action today is simple but powerful.
And so strengthen legal and policy protections
to ensure accessible reporting and supporting mechanisms,
to expand digital literacy and online safety education,
while also prioritizing survivor-centered and trauma-informed support.
So we do that by empowering young people, women, and persons living with disabilities.
And also build the partnership needed to ensure a safer digital Namibia.
And lastly, ending digital violence is not the responsibility of one sector. It belongs to all of us. All right. And so right now, if you may, please, you see the screen at the back. And let me just get word from. No, you guys can sit. You guys can sit. Are we good to go? I'm talking to my technical people at the back. So we are going to watch this 16 Days of Activism, this video here. And then after we are done, we'll do the vote of thanks, and we can network thereafter. Somebody said at the back, it's Friday, and you are right. And so we're going to watch this video, vote of thanks, and then we proceed to network after. Please stay with us.
Join us in the fight against all forms of gender-based violence. First, what is digital GBV? This is any act of violence against a woman or girl, man or boy that is committed, assisted, or aggravated by the use of information and communication technologies. It aims to shame, silence, or control. What is the difference between physical and digital GBV? Physical GBV leaves visible scars. Digital GBV leaves invisible yet equally painful scars that can destroy reputations and silence voices. Digital GBV can happen in private spaces such as WhatsApp groups, DMs, and family chats, not just public posts. It can often escalate from online to offline, including stalking and physical violence. Both types of GBV are human rights violations. Both must end. Let's break down some types of digital GBV. Non-consensual sharing of intimate images, cyberstalking, and online harassment are common forms. If you see it, report it. If you're a victim, seek support. Doxing, or the releasing of private info, creating deep fakes, and identity theft are all digital abuse tactics used to silence women. We must advocate for stronger platform accountability. Trolling, malicious commenting, and technology-facilitated financial abuse, such as controlling a partner's phone or bank accounts, are also forms of digital violence. Abuse is about power and control, online or off. It can impact mental health, economic loss through missed work or school, and withdrawal from public life. You've identified digital violence. Now what can you do? Depending on the conduct and the situation, there are different Namibian laws that can help you seek justice and protection. These laws include the Combating Domestic Violence Act, the Labor Act, the Communications Act, the Child Care and Protection Act, and the criminal offense of crimen injuria, which means intentional harm to the dignity or privacy of an individual. For example, if digital violence occurs within a domestic relationship, you can apply for a protection order, which may require that the perpetrator stop contacting you or face legal repercussions. When the incident occurs outside a domestic relationship, you may have the option to apply for a peace order, provided you know the details of the alleged perpetrator. Knowing your laws can be one of the strongest tools for protection and justice. Take a stand against all forms of gender-based violence.
So I think just for the purpose of background, the video is set to reiterate sort of what we're talking about here, the as far as policy reformation is concerned. And I know that somebody here had said digital GBV, it's sort of a new concept to them, so they're trying to establish some sort of framework around it. So before we do leave, the executive director of HISA Namibia, I don't know if you've been to the venue yesterday, that's Ms. Patricia Sola. She'll do us the honors to give us the vote of thanks. Then thereafter, if we can please just network properly, especially the media houses. I'm sure that there's a lot of stories in this room that need to be told. It's our job to perpetuate that agenda. And so before that, Madam Solo, please, just for the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Franklin. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm standing in a very dangerous position between you and the drinks and the food. So I'd better make this one short. I just want to portray our specific, singular, as well as united gratitude to everyone that is here today. And I will specifically mention groups. The discussion that we've been part of today is an important one in the history of fighting gender-based violence, and particularly digital GBV. Yesterday's session was a prelude to this session, and we on the ground could see the momentum rising, and we are in the throes of that discussion today. I want first and foremost to thank the organizers, UNFPA, together with the Ministry of Gender and Child Welfare, that have been instrumental in ensuring that this has happened today, as well as other activities. Remember, we are on day 10, commemoration of the 16 days of activism against GBV began on the 25th of November. And it's opportune that we have such a profound discussion on day 10. I would also like to thank our partners, as well as funders of this particular session, as well as the program, the European Union, under the UNFPA, I would like to mention particularly the role they have played in ensuring that there's trickle-down effect right down to the, what can we say, down to the ground. Yesterday they experienced the heat of the community. They were the only ones fanning. We sat in our heat. But I'm excited to see the trickle-down effect from policy to action, right to where the conversations should be had on the ground. And it's an exciting time. I would like to thank, I'm sure today you are with me as we thank our very able panelists that have, ensured that we were part of a discussion from those that are representing NGOs, the police were here, UNFPA was discussing issues around policy as well as research that has gone on. Academia was here too, as well as someone was speaking from a parental perspective. I think we kind of ensured that it was well-rounded, as well as youth activists and gender-based GBV activists. Thank you so much, our panelists, for agreeing. I know for some of you it was short notice, but everyone came through and came up today. We also want to thank the NBC for ensuring that this message is amplified and shared around the world today. It's not only going to be us that are part of this narrative, but we know that once it's aired, this conversation will now begin real momentum. Everyone will begin to speak around it. The CSOs, my colleagues here that are represented, CBOs, faith-based organizations, churches, etc., very important. I thank you so much for attending and ensuring that you take this message further. I thank government departments that are represented here. We're grateful for you taking your time off to be part of this. I also want to be able to thank the young people. The young people. Thank you for taking your Friday afternoons are important. Can you imagine taking that for our age, Friday afternoons? This is where we should be. For you to be able to say, we will sit for 2 hours. It's exciting. And that is momentous for me. It's a great acknowledgement to see the young people sitting and being part of a narrative on a Friday afternoon. I don't want to forget our media that's here today, print and other digital media that have been here and will go out and ensure that this message has gone ahead. Our moderators, thank you so much. Excellent work, Mr. Franklin and Ms. Truelika. Thank you so much. Where are they? I think they raced to the eating side. No, she's here. Thank you so much. And, to ensure that it was inclusive, we really must thank our sign language interpreter. Thank you so much, sir. We were together yesterday, and today you are here. Let's just thank everyone together. Let me make sure that I've thanked, I've left 2 people out, 2 categories out. I want to thank my colleagues at HISA Namibia for the opportunity that we put ourselves and ensuring that we were running to ensure that this particular session, as well as yesterday's program, went smoothly. So thank you so much, colleagues, for the work that you have done and will continue to do after this. And also, I want us to thank 2 people, the runners. There were 2 runners. They neither slept nor ate until this thing came to its end. And that is Miss Letitia and Mr. Anthony. They worked seamlessly together. And I think tonight they can hang their boots up, wear their pajamas, and finally fall asleep because it is done. And I think you all deserve a clap. Have I left anyone out, Miss Erica? Yes, very, very important. We've said UNFPA, but remember that the UNFPA belongs to the UN system. I nearly said amen, but amen is all right, ne? At this point in time. But the UN system has ensured that this is a possibility, that this discussion is amplified and just leveraged to a point where it will become something that we will continue to discuss. I think I have everybody here. Collaboration has been mentioned, and continued collectiveness has been mentioned, and that's what I want to reiterate as we leave today, that the conversation doesn't end here, but it should be a continuation. It's a momentum, it's a movement, and if we work collectively, we will minimize and eventually eliminate digital GBV. And with those few words, I say thank you very, very much.